Hello, welcome back. So fair warning, I have my GPS going, so we might have some moments where it talks over me, so I apologize for that in advance. This week has been a monster week, and it has not been a good week for goals. As you can see, I missed my post on Wednesday. Really tried to get that out. The words were not coming together. I didn't have a lot of car time, and so I have a lot of outtakes, which maybe I'll make into a big collage someday. But other than that, not a lot to show for this week. I want to update on the goals and then talk a little bit about the big dig and where we're at on that. So, like I said, not doing well on the goals. Posting 3 videos is one of the goals, and I've only posted 2. So it's kind of like a C, maybe like a C plus. And I mean, that's fine. You know, that's what I got in high school. I mostly was C student by my own efforts. You know, I was shooting for those C's. I didn't really want A's. Well, I wanted A's, but I didn't want to do the work that it took to get A's. So I just did enough work to get C's. They made the mistake of telling us exactly what percentage every assignment and stuff was what percentage of our grade. So it doesn't take a math whiz to just sit there and say, well, if I turn in these things, I get a C, and if I can just skip the rest, right? And so that's what I did on most of my classes in high school. But this is not the same attitude I have with the vlog. I want to get an A, you know. I want to do the work. So we'll just keep trying. And today's a good example. We're trying. Here we are. And thumbs up, you know. So the other goals, one of the big goals that I've been missing this week is the going from Genesis 16 to Genesis 30, and that's because of time, man. That would probably take me about an hour or 2 to do, and I need the time at a desk where I can sit down, listen, and record the different people and different things. I can't just put it on my headphones and do it while I'm cleaning or something like that. So I need to cut out some time to do that. Hopefully this weekend I'll do it, and I'll have something to show for my goals on Monday. So the other one was the big dig, working on that, getting a new print and play ready, and that one's pretty close. I popped in some new cards on the big dig to get them ready for the print and play. I took a lot of the feedback that I got and kind of converted it into what does it look like in the game, and I think that it looks good. One of the things I wanted to do is change the trap cards in a couple of different ways. Last time we did a play test, we hit a trap card. Every person who played, there was 3 of us. All 3 of us hit a trap card for the first 2 turns. So that means out of 6 turns, there were 6 trap cards, and that was annoying. It was like every turn there's a trap card, and so first of all, it doesn't do what I want it to do, where you don't know what's going to happen, and you know, you're like, oh no, am I going to hit a trap card, am I not? And then you hit one, and that's the first thing, because there was no suspense. It was just like, oh, what trap card am I going to hit with this turn? And I don't like that. Second thing it did, it really disrupted the game, because you have to execute those cards right when you flip them, and you flip them over and you have to do what it says, and it was very disruptive. And it's supposed to be disruptive, but if you're disrupting the game every turn, then there's a problem. So I'd like to cut the percentage, and we could have just got a bad shuffle on that, but I still think I'm going to cut the percentage of those trap cards down to about 50% of where they're at now. They take up currently, I did the math, and I think they take up about 17% of the total stack, right, of the total layout of the game. And so 17% is a lot, and don't quote me on that, I could be totally wrong about that number, but it was a certain percentage, and what I want to do is just cut that in half. So if it's 17%, we'll just do something like eight cards. And so 8%, not 8 cards. Different, totally different. So that's the idea there. We'll see how that works out. Part of the way that I'm going to do that is make the trap cards different. So one thing I played around with and I want to test out is this idea that the trap cards are visible, okay, but they're visible by having a different card back. So you see all these card backs, and then there's a different one in there, then you know, okay, that's possibly a trap. Now, if the card backs were different and all those cards were traps, then people would just avoid those piles, right? Because just so you know, the game is played within piles. I know this is kind of hard to track with, but just bear with me. So the game is played in piles. You have a bunch of piles that you dig through the piles. Is basically piles of cards. Is basically the core mechanic. And so, if you have different backs of your cards, and they're all traps, then people avoid them. So, what I decided to do is make those cards event cards. Okay, so when you hit that card, you don't know if it's going to be a trap or some other positive event. And so what I want these cards to do when all is said and done is I want them to either be a trap, so they hurt you, okay, or they hurt your opponent, okay. So that would be, this is a new kind of card type that I want to introduce. Instead of a trap card, it would be a sabotage card. And what you can do is you can use those, they trigger, and then you sabotage an opponent. And this is a kind of a request I got in a lot of the feedback, especially from gamers. They want a way to interact with their opponents. They want a way to directly affect what's happening in their opponent's side of the board, so to speak. And so I don't want a lot of this. I don't want a lot of this because the game will devolve into becoming about how can I hurt my opponent, or how can I drag my opponent down, instead of how can I build my own treasure, my own collection of treasure. And I want the game to be more about building your own collection of treasure than to just wait until an opponent gets somewhere and then you just trash them down. Even though there will be a little bit of that, I can see if you have these cards that interact with your opponent in that way, I could see, like, if someone's winning, everyone trying to go for those cards to try to bring them down. And I think that's okay, because then they might hit traps on the way too. It's a dangerous thing to intentionally try to get to the point where you're attacking your opponent, so to speak. So I like that. Some of these interaction cards, one of them would be to discard a treasure or an artifact. I really want to call them treasures, but artifact fits more. It's funny because artifact fits more. The name artifact fits exactly what it is. It's an artifact. But also you have, like, I have baggage in my brain from artifacts in Magic, and Magic artifacts can be, they can be a bunch of different things. And so I feel like people who've played Magic or gamers might carry that artifact, that view of artifacts into this game. So I need to be careful. I don't know if I'm going to in the end call them artifacts or treasures. I like treasures. It gives the feel of the game that I'm looking for. Treasures, you know, you're looking for treasure. It's more exciting. It's more like awe-inspiring. It's more kid-like, and that's kind of the thing I want to go for. So we'll see what we call them. But interacting with your opponent, going back to the card, that what it does is it discards a treasure. So if they have if they have a treasure on their side of the field that's hurting everyone or hurting you, you can discard it, and that's one way to interact with your opponent. Another one was to swap a treasure. So with the swapping treasure, what happened is a lot of people are asking for ways to steal treasure. You know, they want to be able to steal something from their opponent, and this goes back to that slippery slope about if you make them able to steal stuff, then someone can get a big treasure, because some of these are really big in points, and then the object of the game becomes just to steal that treasure, and I don't like that. So I'm trying to avoid that kind of thing. So instead of stealing it, what I did is swap it, right? So you don't know if you're going to trigger the card that says swap your treasure. So throughout the game, you're going to be trying to get the biggest treasures, because that's what you have to do to win the game. Now, you might hit that card eventually while you have treasures there, and then you're going to have to ask yourself, well, can I swap? Do you have a really low value treasure that you picked up? And that's a good strategy, is maybe pick one up as you're going through, because as you pick them up, you can have something to swap with later. But if you didn't, then you have to make the decision, do I have anything that's worth less than what he has or she has, and can I switch that and for a gain in points? But it's a small gain at that point, right? It's not tremendous. I mean, there will be some instances where there's just a huge blowout with that card, which is fine, but it's less of a blowout than if you just totally steal something from them. So that's what I'm going to go with there: the discard, the swap a treasure, and then there's another card that I made, which is something that I'm still playing with. I'm not sure we're gonna use this way of implementing it, but essentially what it does is you flip it over, it triggers, and then you stick it in their deck. You stick it on the top of their deck. So next turn they draw it. So it gives them one less card on their draw. And then it shuffles into their deck with the rest of the stuff that they found and excavated, and then it blanks them throughout the game. So it's just it's kind of like a leg weight, something that keeps them from progressing really fast, especially those people who build. This is kind of a deck builder game in a way. You're excavating items, and they're going into your discard pile, and then your discard pile is shuffling into your main pile, and then you're drawing cards. So as you know, it's cyclical, so everything that you get from the system will go into your pile, and you'll draw it eventually, and it'll keep going over and over again. And so as you can see, a card like this is really disruptive, because as you're drawing, your draws are being blanked by this this kind of I don't know what you call it, curse card or whatever, something that stays in there and interrupts your flow of your game. And so people who make these draw decks, who get all the cards that say draw a card, they will be disrupted by this, because they'll draw a card, but all their draws are incrementally punished. Their percentage, they're not drawing the percentage card that they think they're drawing. So if they have 10 cards in their deck, one of these is this disruptive card, then they're only going at 90% of their deck. And so what that means is, when you draw a card, depending on how much is left in your deck, there's so much percent chance. If there's 3 cards left in your deck and one of them is the disruptive card, then your draw card only gives you a certain percentage to actually hit what you want. And so I don't have the math, as you can see, because I can't hit those numbers, but you get the concept of it. So those event cards will be, as I said, trap cards, sabotage cards, and the other one is breakthrough cards, or progress cards, things that help you. And so, and this might be a little bit of a shift. I'm not sure how much I want to do with that. There's not as much of a need for cards that help you, because you have other stuff you can get out of the piles to help you build your deck and stuff like that. But these are one-time effects that happen when you trigger the card. So I could see myself putting some big effects that help you in these, because it only triggers once. It's not something you're going to be able to do over and over again. And so that's kind of the idea there. So that was a shift in design there. There's another thing that I did, but we're hitting 15 minutes. So man, that's a long video. I don't know if I'm not gonna talk about that other thing that I did in the design of the big dig. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. 15 minutes is a long video. So I hope this gives you a little bit of picture of what I'm working on. You get the feeling, man, my week's been crazy. I'm driving down in downtown Cincinnati right now, getting my car checked out because I was in a car accident the other day, and so we want to get that fixed up. And it's been a crazy week, but I'm glad that you're here with me, and we're still game designing. That's one of the most important things I've learned, is that, hey, no matter how crazy it gets, keep the design going, keep it flowing, keep doing something. And so thanks for listening, and I hope your week was going great, and I hope your weekend's awesome. Talk to you later.